Hey guys, this is Rayo Universal. Um, don't forget websites www.carolinjesus.com. Carolina Carolina Jesus JESUS.com. WakeCountyFails.com and a myriad of other websites. You ever got up, couldn't sleep for a reason, and something just bothering you? And this is my dilemma tonight is that I went on a job interview for a case aide in the Wake County government and met a former employee that I used to work alongside of Deidre Jones. And it was basically in child protective services and child placement services and so forth. Here's the thing. I need a comment on the overall picture of legislative intent, actual practices and policies, and the detrimental effect on parents, children, and the public. Here's the thing. You know, the legislator came up with systems of care approach that are used in various other jurisdictions. Systems of care approach in terms of delivery of services and child protective services, the baby snatchers. Um, so they developed a system of care where there needs to be equity in hearing out people when stuff goes wrong. Hearing out people in terms of like the parents, allowing them to objectively be able to defend themselves. They came up with a model. One of them was to utilize the thing called child and family team meetings, supposed to be neutral bodies and so forth. Universal Reyoadvocacy has been in this business of advocating for families for years. I started in the professional capacities in the 90s, late 90s. No, more specifically, New Dimensions Family Center. And it is very interesting in this aspect, in this scenario. I always encountered an adverse anti-family position on the part of the government that needed to be checked. They needed some balance. Here at Universal, that became over 3 to 4 years ago. I was working with a family, still working with them, and initials JB and LMB. And here's the thing: is that one of the things that the statutes of North Carolina states is that if there's a custody case, CPS can't get involved because that matter is already being litigated. You know, statutory nature. So in other words, the court say, don't waste our time. We already got this thing scheduled. Don't investigate this stuff because there's scheduled hearings. So we'll take care of it. And it's an interesting concept in that, you know, the legislators with the systems of care, child and family team meetings, which is used nationally, that the purpose is supposed to be to provide an objective environment wherein family, providers, friends can be heard in terms of advocating that a child does not get removed from the family. Families are not broken up. Over the past 3 to 4 years, using that family that I just spoke of, it's been horrendous. It's been horrible. Just to see the way families are treated, parents are treated, broken up, and under force, and totally setting aside the child and family team concept and systems of care. Um, that goes back also to before serving this in particular family. 10 years. Uh, and in specifically more so 2003 is when I started to work with the foster families more so. And I would meet them in the public after leaving Wake County Human Services, and they would tell me how they left fostering because they just encountered some incredibly difficult times, difficult accusations, had to get lawyers and so forth. So what that produced and produces in North Carolina is an inability for local county social services to be able to recruit bona fide, willing, caring foster parents. Because you may be, likelihood of you being accused of child abuse is so high, and the standard and investigative process is not objective, it's subjective, it's prejudicial, because a lot of these workers are just not really keen on reasonable person standards, acceptable, levels of care and discipline. And also, here's the thing: is that the worst part about it is, for example, when you had judges like Lori Christian, who were former CPS workers, in terms of county representatives for CPS as lawyers, who become judges, who a person like her was totally anti-family, anti-parent, and would place that prejudicial value in her rulings. And so what you end up happening is foster parents and children, lives were being disrupted because of people like them. Now, in particular, let me give you an example of Lori Christian. There was a case, children have been taken away. I felt an error. So when a child got placed in foster care, I pick up the file, sometimes multiple files, look over the investigative processes, and I ask and inquire what really happened. And I would find a difference in terms of what actually transpired. And it's not just a difference. Here's the thing: is that it wasn't just a difference. It was an anti-family approach. We had legitimate workers that were anti-family, anti-males, a lot of lesbians in the workforce in CPS, and so they would put that personal prejudice into their work. And I encountered that initially in New York, wherein I had, for example, a family that they from a poor country, one of the Central American places, and their culture was fatten up the kid, because if the kid gets sick, they need to have some reserves to fall back on. So that was their culture. That was the ideology. I understood it. And they were poor. So mom and the daughter shared the bed. Not lesbians. Shared the bed just because they were poor. This is coming from a family that We had king size beds at times. 5 kids slept on a king size bed. God forbid when one of them would pee. You'd have a problem. Everybody would get peed. Not only would everybody get peed, but someone always fell off the bed in the middle of the night. Boom. In the middle of the night. So that doesn't mean we were all homosexuals. But that's just the way we grew. And so this family had gotten their kids taken away. Child got taken away, and it's like, what the hell? And so I encountered some of that stuff when I was working at CPS in Wake County. So I expedited reunification with their child. Period. Expedited and facilitated them meeting court requirements to get the child back. And that went against people like Lori Christian and some other anti-family workers. And as a result, I was attacked. When I ended up going through a divorce and so forth, I ended up being attacked. And didn't expect the ramifications of it, because then I too was accused of being a child abuser, even though there was nothing to the case. And if you read any court document and so forth, you see where I try to assert those defenses. My problem was I couldn't get a good attorney down here to represent me to further the civil case against the county. I hired an attorney from New York. He never got admitted to the bar. His whole premise was, I'm going to take your money. And I ended up getting my retaining fee back, but in the process I lost the case because didn't have a lawyer to prosecute. Period. And a start. Not that the facts weren't sufficient, because it was totally false. I mean, that I was accused of, my daughter ended up with a little bump on her head from hitting the headboard, and supposedly I had tried to strangle her and all this other crazy shit. But here's the thing, that anti-family sentiment, professionalism that's being carried out, it is most clearly evident in the JB case, the LMB case. I attended CFT meetings where you can tell there was no prior written notice. There was no invitations to people that the family wanted to be a part of the meetings. It was all run by the totalitarian CPS workers, including upper administrative staff. And so it's similar to the stuff that I encountered in New York, my pro-family stance, through JFA Social Services, Christian Community Development Corporation, and through private contracting, which I continue here in North Carolina, do the same thing. The proposal. Right now, social services building is occupied by a lot of teenagers. A social services building is not a health facility. Period. In the story. It's not. It's not Holly Hill Hospital. It's not a corrections facility. And it's not a licensed foster home facility. So here, there was a job posting for a K-State. Apparently, social services is allowing a whole lot of teenagers to sleep in the social services building, are housed there. Crazy shit. Inappropriate. And here's the thing, is that it's not upper administration or the state taking charge of an overwhelmed foster care system, of a social services that has gone amok. It is local DSSs like Wake County trying to make a placement facility out of a place of work. And I just want to be sure that you're clear on these things, these concepts. Hospitals are governed to the wazoo by hospital regulations. Detention centers, my God, there's regulations to the wazoo also. And foster homes are licensed by the state, and they're regulated by the state, and they are held to high standard in terms of what conduct can be done in foster homes. But here's the thing, when you start merging and muddling everything up, so now you're creating a placement for youth in a place of work. And instead of shipping these kids to where they can be properly placed in a school, in a foster home with a good neighborhood school, in a foster home that's licensed and regulated, or a group home. Group homes are also regulated. Or when the kids get in trouble and cut up, you put them in a detention facility. But when you start muddling all these waters and making something where it's not, making a group home out of a social services building, it's crazy. Absolute insanity. The building is not designed for that, and I'm sure you could retrofit it, but the thing is, why would you take a social services building, make it into a group home? I mean, you have to go ahead and seek the public buy-in, sell to the public, hey, look, we need to place these kids. But here's the problem. One of the biggest problems is this. Because of social services messing up so bad that it can't get foster homes, because of social services messing up so bad that it can't get group homes, because of social services messing up so bad, not just social services, mental health, the public health with Holly Hill and so forth. It messed up so bad with these concepts and these ideas and the initiatives that it's just all overwhelmed. I mean, it's overwhelmed to the point where the system is broke. And here's the proposal. Social services cannot be trusted to even conduct a CFT. Okay, so the proposal is this, is having a civilian body or an appeal body that is composed of civilians and parents and stakeholders in the community to sort of take the Child Protective Services, the majority of the Child Protective Services abuse allegations, take it out of the courts and put it in a neutral body. Because here's the thing, the courts rely on the social workers, and social workers, government agents, are not even following policy. So because they're not following policy, then the judges are getting these reports of, yeah, we had a CFT, but they don't have the report that the CFT went awry, because the reports don't reflect the actual reality of manipulation and denial of justice for these parents. So the courts are not getting those reports. And they're getting skewed reports from these social workers and CPS workers. So create a government body, a civilian body, in 50-50 body made of workers, Child Protective Services workers, and parents, community stakeholders, paid volunteers to be on this board to hear the allegations of these CPS cases. Let them decide. Because social services is not abiding by the systems of care, child family team meetings, and so forth. That's the proposal. And try to get back to the place where foster parents can become foster parents, knowing that they will not be falsely accused. And having group homes that want to buy into establishing group homes and so forth without fear of, we're going to be charged with something by social services. That's the dilemma. The proposal is a civilian complaint review board or a civilian CPS review board, allegations review board, made up of 50-50, which they will ensure CFTs are actual CFT and look into complaints of parents, of the parents saying, we had a CFT, but they refused to invite the people I asked them to invite. They didn't even give me 10-day notice of a CFT. Then they threatened me if I don't attend a CFT, I'm going to be labeled as uncooperative and have my kids taken away. Real stories here. Universal received those reports, was present for these CFTs, first-hand knowledge of this stuff that has transpired within the past 4 years. So, the proposal is that really social services building should not be a place to house teenagers who you can't place because you can't find foster homes. Basically, the administrators need to be fired and a new process in place, because you can have regulations in place to ensure, you can have policies and regulations to ensure that the legislative mandate is carried out. So you can implement this civilian child abuse report board. You can put that in place as a policy issue, and how you going to go ahead and effectuate what the legislator is asking you to do, because social services can't be trusted. And I've seen it firsthand, that's all I'm saying. And I was falsely accused myself. So this position I applied for, which was a temporary case aid, I feel like totally like on the line, but the position was unusual big time, because it's sort of like, it almost seemed as if they were asking, they put a case aid, but it seemed like they were looking like for a certified nursing associate, CNA, like licensed medical professional or orderly, but they label it as case aid, and that's why you're muddying up stuff. You're getting stuff confused, because public health is guided and hospitals are guided by different set of regulations. Social services are guided by a different set of regulations. And when you muddy that up and have this quasi case aid position that's really a CNA or orderly or hospital staff position, but you pointing it under the guise of social services, you're messing up regulations and creating your own laws. And it's because the system is so daggone broke. It's not even funny. So the proposal is to have a board, 50-50, of a CPS allegations review, and try to get back the hearts of the people and the trust of the people and the trust of people who want to help, foster parents who want to help, who want to get into business, and people who actually care. I hope this helps. WadeCountyFails.com has ample evidence of so many abuses. The Human Resources Department is trash. Absolutely trash. But it's crazy because employees are suffering also adverse hostile work environments. But employees are being asked to do positions that are muddled over. I mean, it's just crazy because, the public health is regulated by severer, stricter regulations than social services. And when you muddy that up and create a case aid position and you're an administrative supervisor, it's interesting because you're creating a quasi public health, quasi social services. You're mixing it up and you're getting all confused. And the issue is really not being addressed, is that the legislative intent is not even there. So you can put into place a civilian report review board that goes ahead and hears the parents and weighs it, have practices and policies that this board can weigh and override what CPS is doing. Because CPS is just getting foster parents in problems. They're getting parents in problems, separating kids unnecessarily. I've experienced it myself in terms of actually seeing it happen while I was in CPS. And this has been going on for history. I mean, baby snatcher phenomenon is not new. And that's why some of these, in different jurisdictions, these CFTs were created. They actually work in some jurisdictions. Not in Wake County Human Services. Not in Wake County. So the proposal is to rectify that, is to go ahead and have a 50-50 civilian complaint, report review board. And because social services is totally, I've seen it. They provide no prior notice of meetings, and then they threaten, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're gonna have your kids taken away. No notice most of the time, and no formulary. So if you even ask them for help, say, well, you want me to leave the family, leave the home? Where do you expect me to go? Oh, you need to go to the street. Well, if they don't have someplace to go, pay for an apartment, pay for a room. You got the funds, dude. It's called family preservation. Legislature put it in. Dude, I've seen social services pay for people's groceries, rent, lights, water, just to preserve the family. I've seen it. I've seen the checks go out. Seen the money delivered groceries myself. Been there, done that. God bless. I don't mean to. It just bothered the hell out of me. I'm sorry, dude. It just bothered the hell out of me. Hope this helps. God bless. WadeCountyFails.com, CarolinaJesus.com, Reyoadvocacy.org, .com, .net. These are the websites. And it's sad.